So, Andrew Tate first. Then after he passes the baton to Sneako, Sneako too is stripped from his platforms. Allow me to first state that Sneako made quite the error when he banded himself with Andrew Tate from start to finish. I'm not here to say that there isn't any value in anything Andrew Tate has ever said. I've known about Andrew Tate for years now, actually, which I find interesting. But I don't really think that should have been his role model or the person that he should have been listening and getting his philosophy and his ideals from. Mostly because Andrew Tate is not a man who is truly motivated by virtue and goodness and righteousness and trying to help people. Or at least that's certainly not the character that he portrayed on the internet. And Sneako, following after that character, also is not something that most people would have seen from start to finish. Hell, even when someone, say like Jordan B. Peterson, is trying to do the best that he can to help disenfranchised people who need help, he still gets lambasted by these people as well. They can't quite put their finger on why they don't like him. There's just something real problematic about him, is what I've noticed. The point is, Sneako has been eviscerated, banned. You can't see him on YouTube anymore. And I'm not really fond of this type of canceling, deplatforming, if you will. Personally, because there's a lot of content from Sneako I wanted to watch that I put on the back burner that now I can't because his videos are removed. That's annoying. But also because it doesn't do anything. I mean, sure, it might slow the traction down. It might stop that one person in particular, and it certainly is going to be painful for them. I mean, I get no joy or no glee when people, lose their livelihoods or lose anything they've worked hard to obtain. Even if I don't agree with them politically or philosophically, it's not good. However, I will say this. Andrew Tate and Sneako never did themselves any favors, because nothing that they were saying was honestly really a grand or good solution to the problems that they were talking about. So, I made a video where I talked about how Sneako tapped into the misogyny force, and that was obviously a joke. But the point is, what Sneako and Andrew Tate tapped into was the fact that there's a lot of young men, that have a tough time dating women. The interesting thing is, even the new males who try their best, and I mean try the real best, to protect women's feelings and try their damn best to make sure that we no longer live in a world full of cruelty and misogyny and trying to be good and nice to them. I'm talking about the Hassan Pikers of the world, the cucks that allow their girlfriends to be on OnlyFans. Even them have a tough time having good relationships with women. Andrew Tate and Sneako tapped into that market because there's a lot of young men that have a tough time having relationships with women. The problem is that the grand solution that was oftentimes granted to these young men was a rather, dare I would say, silly one. That is, you become the ultimate super mega male who has lots of resources and riches that can somehow maintain his frame and whatnot. You work hard to get to the top of the ladder to then create yourself a bit of a harem, which is something that can only work for a select few of men, and honestly doesn't really address the problems that these men are having. The ultimate problem that these men are having is a rather simple one. They don't want to just have a bunch of women, albeit some of them do. They want to be loved by a woman. And the Manosphere and dating coaches are never addressing that problem. The ultimate problem going on here is not that men are sexless. Men aren't loved as people. The things that women love about men are typically their utility, is typically the things they can do for them. But as a human being, as someone to be empathized with, cared about, someone to be helped and protected, men do not get that from women. And I'm not saying that from a physical point of view that's what women should strive for. That's absurd. But what I am saying is from a mental and emotional point, the Manosphere never addresses that reality. In fact, it's very stuck on the very surface level of just having sex with them. If you take a second and pay attention to any dating coach channel, or even any incel channel, really, I can't actually say that about any incel channel. They're actually a little bit more switched on than most people give them credit for. But if you pay attention, particularly again to the dating coaches, if you pay attention to even like Sneako and Andrew Tate, what you'll notice is the surface level of attraction that's going on. Typically any advice that's given to young men are all stat sheets. It's all about the things that you have to do in order to be accepted at first wholesale. There's very little give and pushback to women wanting these things at all. Even Jordan B. Peterson, a man who wants to help a lot of these disenfranchised men, still thinks that women should be picky. Oh, don't worry, I'm going to criticize my man Jordan B. Peterson on this point eventually, but even he feels such a sentiment as this. When this is the case, when the overarching narrative is that women are, for lack of a better word, infallible in their desires for men, the grand solution of trying to get men to be what women are asking for isn't very helpful or conducive. Not only is it going to cause frustration for all of the men that are going to fail, but then we get into the other problem. And the other problem is, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you bake this cake, it's never going to look good in the mainstream. Saying that you should become a super high earning male to have a harem of women that you just have sex with is never going to fly straight. It's not just because America is a country mostly filled with, I would like to call them pseudo-Christians because they're really Christian in name only. I can qualify that some other time, but whatever. But basically, having this morality or this veneer of morality, of Christianity, of monogamy, of having some respect for women, no one's going to hear that message. Moving on, I guess you can separate the religion of respecting women from Christianity, but again, I have to clarify that some other time. When you have a culture of people that want to protect women to such a degree, even from themselves sometimes, when the character that you present is one of bravado and greed, honestly, and surface level, I'm going to be honest, F-boy type of status seeking, sex seeking, partying sometimes, when you have that character, that archetype, the literal villainous, I'm a toxic male guy who's going to be a villain and smoke cigars. Or to Sneako's lighter case, he's a bit lighter, not exactly Andrew Tate, but a little bit lesser than. The mainstream just can't jive with that. Because, honestly, no matter how you slice it, even if you're playing to the fantasy, and it is a fantasy, of being able to have a lot of women, you have to remember that, one, the motivation behind that fantasy it oftentimes comes from a deficit or hilariously huge ego. There's oftentimes very little in between. It's either you think too high of yourself or you think too low of yourself. It's very, very seldom does the middleman want a harem of women, mostly because what that entails is a lot of responsibility and money and headaches, because women suck sometimes. But anyway, I digress. The point is that message just isn't going to jive in the mainstream. It's just not going to jive. It's never going to sound good. To anyone but the people that are head asses. It's only going to sound good to people that are greedy. It's only going to sound good to people that honestly don't have strong moral frameworks. It's only going to ever sound good to people that are sad and depressed. And it does, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, if you just look at the way movies are presented, if you just look at the way that we just absorb these messages through osmosis, that type of male character is never a good one. So it does make sense that Angie Tate and Sneako would garner a lot of enemies, because they are the very thing that a lot of feminists rage against the machine against. The irony being is that no matter how much women rage against the machine of these type of men as a performance, they are still the men women pick. And the problem is the fact that a lot of these guys recognize that it doesn't really matter if women rage against the machine of this performance, when at the end of the day, those are the ones that do get to reproduce, quite literally. When I say reproduce, I don't just mean they're the ones that have sex and have children, just in general, but they're also the ones that give the best rags to riches stories. Think of Hamza's Jeffrey marketing, right? He was a Jeffrey, now he's an Adonis. Sure, he'll humble brag and say that he's not Adonis yet, but that's not the point. The point is, you see the weak, frail Hamza become a rich, successful, muscular Hamza. It's a great story. It makes perfect sense that people want to aspire to that. The problem is the person that Hamza became at the end of that was an asshole. In a lot of ways, he's still kind of an asshole. The point is, to become that type of character, nary a virtue is ever applied there. And it's really hard to actually be able to say this message to anything but to people that have given up to such an extent that they don't recognize that there needs to be character and there needs to be morality and there needs to actually be some type of standard that you as a male need to apply yourself to. There is a pure utility. There is a pure mechanism in the manosphere, that if you do X, you get Y. And the truth of the matter is, for some men, that is going to be the case absolutely. You are going to be able to become more successful financially. You are going to be able to become muscular. You are going to be able to focus on your skincare routine and your hair and become handsome. Some of you guys are just going to be genetically superior, and you're just going to be exactly what the woman wants wholesale out of the womb. That's going to happen. The problem is the fact that most men aren't going to be that guy. But what's even worse still is to be that guy is not a man of character. And it makes perfect sense that in the mainstream, people are going to view these messages and reject them wholesale. Because honestly, they shouldn't accept it to begin with. Because trying to be that man isn't a solution again to the ultimate problem. The ultimate problem is that men and women don't really get along anymore. It's not entirely true, not by a long shot, but the mainstream at least idea, or at least no matter where you go on the internet, is most people are complaining about the fact that they can't have good relationships, or they're complaining about the quality of their current relationship right now. Very seldom do you see people who are just happy talking about being happy and how to solve their issues and problems, how to continue to be happy. In fact, it's kind of a novelty. Now, is this a perspective problem because of the internet and we only see the most negative portrayals of relationships? That might be the case. I honestly don't know. But the long and short of it is, lots of people that need help are coming to the internet and coming to these gurus and these dating coaches. And instead of being told that they need to be better men for their children and their families, they're being told they need to be the ultimate super male in order to get women to like them. The problem is that bravado-esque character of villainy, let's just call it what it is, may work in a short-term way to get women to like you. It does. But one, it doesn't look very good to the mainstream people. It doesn't look good to women consciously. Again, women can consciously say all the live long day, they don't like men like that, but we see that they select them. That's a fact. But the problem is, no one's going to say they actually like that guy unless you're a stupid person, unless you're a stupid woman, you know, that just, you know, is stupid enough to not understand that you're supposed to have like a veneer, you know, that you're supposed to have a representative, but I digress. The point is, Sneako and Andrew Tate didn't do themselves any favors because, again, the type of person or the type of character that they were putting out isn't one that's going to jive with people very well. And shoot, it doesn't even jive well. I mean, honestly, it doesn't help that what they were saying is the truth about women's behavior. It doesn't help at all. It doesn't help one lick. Because the truth about women's behavior makes women look bad. And you can't make women look bad because you have to protect them because they're oppressed. That's the narrative of the mainstream. That's the narrative of the social justice warriors. That's the narrative of all the new males. That's how they view the world. That you have to protect women even from themselves, which is a remarkable arrogance, I might add. But again, I'll have to talk about the new males some other time and how they're equally as villainous as all the different bravado-having dickheads around as well. But the point is that you can't have this message of women are kind of crappy and terrible and bad, and then tell men that they're supposed to have some type of harem with women or some type of rotation with women, and they're not supposed to treat them like people, and that women can't really love you, and women aren't good. The long and short of it is, you can't speak the truth about women from a place of misogyny. And I hesitate to use that word because I want to use the word poignantly. I want people to understand that to actually be a misogynist, it does take having bad relationships with women. But the word gets used so much and so often, it almost feels like just saying anything negative about women means you hate them, and that's not the case. But the point is, there's no other way you can really interpret the way you're supposed to treat women from, honestly, Andrew Tate and Sneako, as anything but misogyny. And they can say all of the live long day how they respect women and how they actually like them, but treating women like they're options, you don't treat friends like that. You don't treat people you care about like that, but you're supposed to treat women like that, having a rotation of them, having a harem of them, only focusing on acquiring resources and not actually investing in a relationship with them. That doesn't sound like a good thing. And only ever focusing on how terrible women are also is not going to make you look good either in the eyes of the mainstream. In conclusion, I'm not saying that I wanted Sneako or Andrew Tate to be banned, not for a New York minute. I don't like people being banned or off any platform in general. But what I can say is that unless you couple character with this type of conversation, unless you start combining the fact that you're not supposed to be an arrogant dickweed just because it works with getting laid with women, everyone is going to get the same treatment. If you're going to defeat these people, and I mean really beat them, you have to address something really critical and really obvious that a lot of people think is really silly and kind of girly and kind of gay. And that is, men want to be loved by women. Their rage and anger comes from the fact that they cannot be loved by women. And in order to get any type of female validation from women that they've elevated to a god tier status that is hilariously unearned, they go to these dating gurus and they listen to them and they stew and they get angry because the only thing they're ever told is a confirmation of all their bad experiences combined with all the other bad experiences of other men around them too. And without any good, positive females to actually show them that they're just wrong, and even then sometimes they're too far gone, nothing is ever going to change. Telling men that they have to be the super ultra mega male is not going to solve the problem that the average male, the lifeblood of any civilization, is really starting to not give a shit about the very civilization they live in. Until that actually gets addressed earnestly, nothing is going to get better. You might get another person with another platform saying a lot of these silly, frivolous, bravado-seeking character bullshit again, but it'll just be more of the same. So hopefully, this video has given you guys something to think about. With that being said, I hope you guys got something out of today's video, and if you did, go and click the like button. Just shoot, go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below, and as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.